والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, first we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again. Allah has granted us the tawfiq and the ability to have performed our Maghrib Salaah with Jama'ah, alhamdulillah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in one narration that the person who wants to preserve his iman, for the one who wants to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a believer, as a Muslim, فَلْيُحَافِظْ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ الصَّلَوَاتِ الْخَمْسِ, that person should preserve and perform and safeguard the 5 daily salawat which Allah has made fard upon him. In doing that, that person will meet Allah as a believer and his iman will be preserved. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. This evening, one of the ayat in Surah Al-Furqan, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Ibadur Rahman, those servants of Allah, the servants of Ar-Rahman, the elite group of servants and slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is beautified with certain beautiful qualities and characteristics. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions some of these characteristics. And the fifth characteristic Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions of the Ibadur Rahman, those servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that they always make the dua. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا اصْرِفْ عَنَّا عَذَابَ جَهَنَّمْ إِنَّ عَذَابَهَا كَانَ غَرَامًا إِنَّهَا سَاءَتْ مُسْتَقَرًّا وَمُقَامًا. They make this dua. Those Ibadur Rahman are those people who ask Allah continuously to safeguard them from the fire of Jahannam. So part of being a believer and part of being a righteous believer and a pious and God-fearing believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that the person has a level of fear for the fire of Jahannam. That person that reminds himself on a daily basis in part of the du'as and part of the du'as that person makes on a daily basis is he asks Allah to protect him from the fire of Jahannam. And Allah mentions this ayah in the Quran. And there are those people who say, Rabbana, oh my Rabb, protect us and turn us and protect us from the fire of Jahannam. Inna adhabaha kana gharama. That indeed the punishment in the fire of Jahannam kana gharama. And the Mufassirun mention what is this word gharama. What does it mean? It means it is inseparable. It is continuing. It doesn't come to an end. The punishment that never leaves the side of a person. The fire of Jahannam, that's what Allah mentioned in the Quran over and over, that those people who will be, of the people who will be forever and forever in Jahannam. Imagine the pain of this dunya, we cannot handle for a few seconds. Imagine being in the fire of Jahannam continuously without it coming to an end. So kana gharama, they make the dua, Allah, this fire of Jahannam, it is something which doesn't leave a person. So Allah protect us from it. And many times, we hear, then we say, the person say, I don't mind spending a moment in Jahannam. Inshallah, because I'm a believer, I'll go one day to Jannah. If I have to go via Jahannam to Jannah, it's also fine. As long as I go to Jannah. Allah mentions in the next ayah, the dua that Allah mentions in the next ayah, إِنَّهَا سَاءَتْ مُسْتَقَرًّا وَمُقَامًا. That indeed, it's an evil place. It's an evil place as an abode and as a place to dwell in. Meaning the fire of Jahannam, it is an evil place to reside in it. For Jahannam to be your abode is something evil. And not only to reside in it, but to dwell in it. Meaning that you can't, like how a person can visit the next person, you stay for a few minutes and then you go. Or you dwell in your house and then you go out again. You're not staying in it permanently. So even if you think that you can stay in it for a few moments or for a while, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it is an evil abode, even if you have to stay in it for 1 second of the day. Even if you stay in it for a moment, you won't be able to handle the torment and the punishment and the pain of the fire of Jahannam. That's why Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned a hadith that a person will, on the day of Qiyamah, Allah will grant a person who went through every difficulty in his life. He had the most difficult of life, and Allah will grant him just to experience a breeze from Jannah. You will only experience a breeze, not Jannah itself, just a breeze from Jannah. And Allah will ask you, what difficulty did you go through in this life? And after experience a breeze from Jannah, he will say, the hadith mentioned, he will forget every difficulty he had in this dunya because of the experience of the breeze and the wind of Jannah. And then you add hadith mentioned, you find someone, he has enjoyed everything in his dunya, everything he had in his dunya. On the day of Qiyamah, he will experience only a breeze from the fire of Jahannam. And it will be asked that what enjoyment did you go through in this dunya? You will immediately forget all of that enjoyment in this dunya. Just because of the breeze of the fire of Jahannam. Imagine the breeze of the fire of Jahannam. Sometimes when we bright, or sometimes when you're sitting in front of the fire, sometimes just the smoke of that fire already hits a person. It burns your eyes. And the heat of the fire burns our hands. Imagine the fire itself. Imagine the fire itself. And that's why it's so important. We ask Allah. That's why Rasulullah said in one of the hadith that a person who asks Allah 7 times a day, Allahumma ajirna min al-nar, or Allahumma ajirni min al-nar, and he does it 7 times, the fire of Jahannam says, Ya Allah, your servant is asking you protection from me, so protect him from me. And a person who says 7 times a day, oh Allah, grant me into Jannah, grant me Jannah, Jannah will reply and respond and request, Ya Allah, your servant is desiring me, so grant him entry into Jannah. So part of a belief and part of the iman of a person is to always have the fear of Jahannam, making dua that, Ya Allah, don't grant me to be from the fire of Jahannam. I just heard a beautiful story. So one of the ulama was explaining, he says that one of the Salaf, he went and he was traveling and he saw this group of youngsters. They were playing, youngsters were playing, and another youngster was standing on the side of it. He was tearing, he was crying. So he asked him, what is the reason why you're crying? He said, because you don't have toys, or you don't have a ball to play with. Is that the reason why I'm crying? And he said, no, I'm not crying for that. I'm crying out of fear for Jahannam. So this person, the scholar, was amazed. You're crying out of fear for Jahannam. You're so small. What do you have to worry about Jahannam? What do you have to worry about Jahannam? You're so small. So this youngster responded, and he told this scholar that, don't be fooled by my size and my age. That when my mother cooks the food, and when my mother takes and she starts the fire, she takes the small, the young pieces of wood and she light the fire. So I'm afraid, what if Allah uses the young slaves of His and the young servants and light the fire of Jahannam? Because Allah mentioned in the Quran that save yourself and the family from Jahannam, because the fuel of Jahannam will be stones and people. The fuel of Jahannam will be stones, says Allah. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. Stones and people will be the fuel of Jahannam. So he was afraid that when my mother lights the fire, she always uses the small thin pieces of wood. I am afraid that what if Allah decides to use the small pieces, the small human beings, the young human beings to start the fire of Jahannam. So imagine this was the fear of a youngster. Allah granted us the reality of the fire of Jahannam, because of those that when we hear about Jahannam, the punishment of Jahannam, it should bring about a fear. It should make our hearts unsettled. It should be something we ask Allah to protect us from, and protect our families and our children from. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq and understanding. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillah. Subhanallah.